Welcome back to the President's Podcast. I'm Dr. Tekemia Dorsey, President of the Randallstown NAACP Branch 7032B. In our first episode, When the Government Shuts Down, Leaders Must Stand Up, we talked about what happens when systems fail and how leadership is tested when people are left waiting for decisions that never come. But here's what I know. When the government shuts down, servant leadership must rise up. Yep, servant leaders is what help make the world go round. That's the heartbeat of this episode. Leading beyond the title, servant leadership in action. And before we dive in, I want to share something very personal and deeply connected to this moment. I recently released my new book, From Poverty to Prosperity, a CEO's Guide to Fighting Poverty Through Business, Innovation, and Leadership. This book is about transforming adversity into opportunity. It's about how we use business and leadership to solve problems, not just profit from them. And it's rooted in the same message we're exploring today, that leadership without service is simply management, and power without purpose changes nothing. Man, I need to repeat that real quick because I think you might have missed it. My book, From Poverty to Prosperity, is about transforming adversity into opportunity. It's about how we use business and leadership to simply solve problems, not just profit from them. And today's podcast is rooted in this same message. We're exploring that leadership without service is just management, and power without purpose really changes nothing. So let's dive in, because I know you're excited and wondering what we're going to talk about today. So let's talk about what it really means to lead beyond the title, especially when the world around you feels like it's shutting down, or in our case, has already shut down. You know, the government shutdown is really a test of true leadership. And that's not just from the elected officials. It is also from everyday people like you, like me, like our neighbors, like our children, like our parents, like our sisters and brothers, and even our aunts and uncles. When the government shuts down, people feel it immediately. We're literally in the midst of day 7, day 8. And families, workers, students, and small businesses are really feeling the wrath of our current shutdown. But what the shutdown really exposes is a leadership deficit. If you're watching the news, TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, LinkedIn, it's episodes from Democrats, Republicans. I think I even heard from a independent, adults, influencers, children. Everyone is identifying the causes, but what I'm seeing is that the deficit in leadership is also causing the rise of more people using their voices for advocacy for or against what should happen and what the impact is. But a shutdown really exposes leadership deficit. Leadership is not positional, it's purposeful. And I'm finding that I'm hearing people purpose come out in their voices. They're echoing what they really feel, what they're really experiencing because of what they're feeling. Leadership that is political is not people-centered. And at the end of the day, regardless if it's a Republican-controlled White House, Senate, and Congress, and the Democrats are pushing, there has to be a commonality that brings us back to the forefront, because our constituents, the people, you, me, everyone, are beginning to feel the negativity impacted by this shutdown. And yet, in every shutdown, we see another kind of leadership emerge. And that is the servant leadership that I'm seeing and I'm hearing, I'm excited about. And I hope it continues even when the government opens back up. But here's what we also know is that when systems fail, it's ordinary people who become extraordinary leaders. We see teachers volunteer, or we continue to watch them volunteer at food drives for furloughed families. We see churches organize meals, community organizations open relief centers, and even teenagers delivering groceries to seniors. That's not government work. That's community work. And then in the last episode, when government shuts down, leaders in communities must rise up. We talked about how communities could get involved. That's an excellent example. Servant leadership. Government work is going to be just that, government work. But community work is the sign of true leadership. Now, when communities shut down, when systems shut down, communities step up. Whether you're from a Black community, a white community, a mixed community, a Jewish community, a rural community, an urban community, it's all community at the end of the day. And in the last few years, what we've learned is that when government shuts down, paychecks stop and people lose trust. And when paychecks stop and people lose trust, one or two things can happen. Either we can work together or we'll turn against each other. And what I'm hoping through watching people find their voices and expressing how they're feeling and the movement that is happening, that we continue to work together as opposed to work against one another. Because at the end of the day, we're all humans. Servant leadership can help rebuild that trust. And here's how a community can respond to the crisis. And if you didn't listen or watch episode 1, please also go back to pick out the strategies of how communities can also rise up. And so communities responding to crisis can do it in a number of ways. Create emergency resource hubs, local NAACP branches, churches, or schools can serve as coordination centers for food, information, and childcare. In my county, some of those things were already being done prior to the shutdown. If you don't have that in your area, reach out to a local school, elementary, middle, or high school. I would even say go to your local community college. Find your local pantry or your local farmer to see if there's any way that you can collaborate. Go to your Department of Health and Human Services or local nonprofit organizations that may have resources that your community could benefit from. Host information nights. Yes. Steve Jobs and the guy that started Facebook, Zuckerberg, started from their garage, your living room, your local PAL center or recreation center, a library. Explain what benefits or rights people have during the shutdown. Knowledge is power. I know our Randallstown NAACP 7032B back in a few months ago, we hosted our first Know Your Rights mini conference. And the information in helping people knowing the benefits and their rights was wholeheartedly the center of why we held it, mainly because of Project 2025 and the NAACP's response is our 2025. So our branch made it even more relevant on the local level by creating the Know Your Many Rights Conference. And it was great to help people understand who the NAACP is, what areas the NAACP covers, what are some ways that the NAACP can help them in already doing so. And it was a great reminder to let people know and to give them ahas as to what the NAACP stands for and how they can get involved with boots on the ground as servant leaders. So you too can host information nights because knowledge is power. And form servant pods. I love this idea. And servant pods are where you form or you ask 3 to 5 volunteers in a small group who focus on one gap, such as childcare, transportation, housing, food, seniors. There's enough work in every community that even if you brought 100,000 people, there would still be a need that needs to be filled. So creating your own or forming your own service pod could help fill one gap. And most people in life, they might have an interest, but they don't want to be the first. They want someone else to pick up the gavel and run with it. Let that be you, your neighbor, your family. Matter of fact, start in your house, in your home. If you're a mom or a dad or a grandmom or a granddad or aunt or uncle or cousin, that's the small hub right there. Family of 3 to 5, even 7. And let's say you want to focus on food or helping the elderly in your community. Boom, there you go. And then you're hearing what the needs are. And then you're getting others motivated and getting them involved. During the 2019 shutdown, a Baltimore area coalition called Relief Pods adopted local families. Each pod ensured that no family went without food, utilities, or moral support. And having moral support in a government shutdown like COVID is a need by itself because people are wary whether they believe in a higher being or not. They're lonely, they're uncertain, depression is going to fall in, mental health concerns are on a rise. It's not enough strategies. So, the relief pods during the 2019 shutdown did exactly in practical application what we're talking about. And that's leadership. They decentralize, make things human, and they were effective. People saw them for the great work that they did because volunteers were also a part of the relief pods movement that weren't even a part of the relief pods. So again, a review is how communities can respond during this crisis. Create emergency resource hubs, NAACP, churches, schools, coordination centers, food, information, childcare. Host an information night that's going to help people understand what their benefits are and knowing what their rights are, especially for our elderly and even our young people that are experiencing this shutdown, again, 7 years later, but maybe a little older. And then last but not least, form service pods. Start with people in your home. Ask your neighbor to get involved. If you live in an HOA, ask those individuals to get involved. It takes a community to rise up during times of crisis. Servant leadership really is focused on purpose over position. Because servant leadership isn't about themselves. It's literally about serving others. And you're probably saying, I already serve people. That is wonderful. We're not asking you to stop. And matter of fact, because you are amazing. But what we are in need of is more people like you, more people to understand that lifting a hand for 30 minutes could leave a lot lasting impression, short term and long term. And if it starts with you and starts with someone else, again, even 20, 30 minutes or even an hour once a week is going to matter, especially in the times that we're living in. So servant leadership means that you lead to be seen. You lead not to be seen, but to serve. Let me repeat that again. I apologize for the jumble. Servant leadership means that you lead not to be seen, but to simply serve. And that's amazing in itself, that you're simply out there to do the right thing and to help others. I've seen people cling to titles such as CEO, president, director, while their teams starve for guidance. But leadership isn't about control, it's about compassion. And I'm pretty sure if you look to your left or look to your right, look behind you or in front of you, you can find a person that is clinging to a title, and then you can find a person that is about compassion. Go towards the person that exemplaring the compassion versus the control. In my new book, From Poverty to Prosperity, I talk about innovation and leadership being fighting, because leadership and innovation can fight poverty, not through handouts, but through hands-on leadership. And let me pause there for a second. You know, poverty is like the elephant in the room. It is that one topic that no one wants to talk about and no one feels that's relevant to them, but it impacts us all. And what we need first and foremost, before we can even dive into solutions, is to be honest that poverty exists. And it's not a black thing, it's not a white thing, it's not a inner city thing, it's not a rural thing, it's not a suburban thing. It is financial, it is mental, it is behavior, it is action, but it's really a humanity thing. And what this shutdown is going to do is take those people that were impoverished deeper in poverty, those people that weren't used to living paycheck to paycheck and had substantial, they're now getting to the point of limitation. And hopefully the poverty numbers don't continue to go up because of the days lingering of the shutdown. And one business leader I spoke with started hiring furloughed federal employees for short-term consulting projects during the shutdown. He said, if the government won't pay them, then I will. Man, that's another hand in the sun. That's servant leadership. Business is a force for good. And it's not charity being able to help another that is down on their last or maybe need support or both. It is our responsibility as individuals. And no, I'm not preaching to the choir. Yes, I've done it. Yes, my kids are rooted in it. Yes, I continue to do X, Y, and Z. So let me be honest with you. I'm not telling you anything that I haven't already done myself. Google me, right? So again, servant leadership in business is a force for good. It's not charity, it's responsibility. So how do we refine leadership where you currently reside within yourself? Servant leadership starts with one simple mindset. How can I help? How can I help? How can you help? How can I help you? How can you help me? How can you help another? Here's how to lead beyond any title and any role that you have other than human. If your business, hire locally, mentor youth. If you are in business, hire locally. You don't need to go, you live on the East Coast, you don't need to go on the West Coast. If you live on the East Side, hire from the East Side. Mentor youth, get the youth involved. Right now, the youth programs are more than likely shut down or on their way to shut down. Bring them in, mentor them, help teach them the job, teach them the work, teach them the business. Donate professional services during crisis. Sounds easy. Not saying 20 hours, maybe 1 or 2. Host a free workshop. Partner with your local, partner with another organization, partner with your local small business, economic workforce development. If you're in faith leadership, use your building as a resource center for those impacted. And we know, even before the shutdown, there were a lot of people in need. If you have space, consider utilizing that space for serving meals or opening the door for people to lay their head, or set up a shop where people can stop by and get chips and waters and things like that. If you're a community member, volunteer to make wellness checks or create a mutual aid fund. I love the wellness checks. It only takes a phone call or check-in or a knock on the door. Okay. Example, during the last shutdown in 2019, one small business owner in Maryland offered free meals for furlough workers every Friday. I know my nonprofit, what we did also was to help out, and we gave away lunch one Friday once a month. We did a random on Facebook. People submitted names. They had to be in the public sector, like nurses, doctors, medical field, and the winners ended up getting lunch. The small business owner that offered the free meals for furlough workers every Friday, he didn't wait for a government grant. He just acted. What we did as a nonprofit, we actually got the idea from this small business owner because we wanted to help in ways that we could, even though we were limited in funds and resources. His restaurant became a beacon of hope. Servant leaders don't just watch the storm. They open umbrellas for others. I love everything about this podcast in these teachable moments. Okay, there are 5 pillars of servant leadership dealing with crisis. When systems are stressed, these 5 pillars help to keep servant leaders strong and effective. Number 1, empathy first. Don't go in blazing trail, speaking down to people, speaking over people, speaking at people. Empathize, because guess what? That could be you. So be human first. Before any decision, ask, who will this help or harm? Secondly, leaders must listen with their hearts before speaking from their platforms. Number 2, listening. People need to be heard, not managed. Trust me, people are already down in the dump. They're feeling guilty. They wish they could do more. Mental health is kicking in. Depression is kicking in. They don't need to be chastised, right? So people need to be heard. Listen to them versus judging them. Create a virtual or in-person listening circle for furlough employees or residents or even their families, right? Invite open dialogue and record recurring issues for follow-up. What you'll find when you're listening, especially active listening, you'll start hearing themes. And those themes lead to greater action because all you're doing is in a position of listening. So powerful. Number 3 is stewardship. Manage resources like they belong to the community because they do. Listen, you can't take nothing when you exit this earth, not even your money. So treat the resources you have as that they belong to the community. Allocate local branch or business funds to emergency initiatives. If you have it to spare, even if it is just offering water and snacks or a basket. Reinvest profits into community resilience programs. The internet is still up and running. Find out the community resilient programs in your area and partner with them. Number 4 of the 5 ways that servant leaders, number 4 of the 5 pillars of the servant leadership crisis edition is growth. Use every shutdown as a mirror. Where can we improve? We just went through a government shutdown in 2019. Right after the shutdown, we went right into COVID. We're less than 18 months to 21 months, 24 months out of COVID. We back in the shutdown again. What have we learned? Where can we improve? Offer skill building workshops for furlough workers, budgeting, entrepreneurship, civic education. What I love about what the Randallstown NAACP 7032 is doing, we're hosting our first economic summit for small businesses, less than 50 employees, entrepreneurs, and side hustlers. We're planning it right now because we knew of the need even before the shutdown. Right. Prepare the next generation of leaders through mentorship programs, meaningful mentorship programs, not ones that come and go and then there's no follow-up. Create a 30, 60, 90 plan beyond the mentorship program. So there's follow-up, there's engagement, there's continuity, there's accountability. And last of the 5 pillars of servant leadership dealing with crisis is leadership multiplies when we connect, not compete. Man, that's another t-shirt. Leadership multiplies when we connect, not compete. Host multi-sector town halls that bring together government, business, and citizens. The Randallstown NAACP is hosting our first town hall that's coming up in about 3.5 weeks for those that are running for county executive. Timely. Didn't even know this was going to happen, but it's right on time. Build a standing coalition for crisis response preparedness, ready before the next shutdown. So what can we do from what we learned from 2019 to COVID to here? Man, that crisis response preparedness is something immediately we need to even look into, because I hadn't even thought of that into this podcast, right? Doing a state budget freeze, for example, several Baltimore nonprofits and small businesses formed a partnership called Community First. Look it up. Together, they shared staff, vehicles, and supplies to continue youth programs uninterrupted. That is how communities come together to collaborate and connect versus competing. Wonderful. Man, another round of servant leadership at scale. So you're probably wondering how we move from service to system, business and leadership as community tools. And in my book, From Poverty to Podcast, I emphasize that business and innovation can be tools for justice if we use them that way. It's up to us. When the government shuts down, businesses can step up. Businesses can hire temporary workers. Businesses can sponsor community relief events. Businesses can offer free services, accounting, job coaching, legal support to families who need stability. When businesses, community, and faith leaders unite under servant leadership, the result isn't just relief, it's recovery. We move from patching holes to building bridges. Another strategy is institutionalized servant leadership, and it's 3 ways to do just that. Create a prosperity task force in your community. What is a prosperity task force? A joint partnership between local businesses, civic organizations, and schools to support economic recovery. Boom, boom, bam. Develop a resilience fund, a community resilience fund. Small donations pooled to cover urgent community needs during shutdowns or disasters. It might be one right in your backyard. And if not, consider it. Community Resilience Fund. Train future leaders. This is where you can use your business or your organization to mentor young adults in ethical, service-based leadership. Man, the solutions are widespread. When service becomes system, leadership becomes legacy. Say it again. When service becomes system, leadership becomes legacy. Man, we've been dropping nuggets all the entire podcast, and I absolutely love it. Service leadership is the cure to system shutdown. When leadership fails from the top, The solution always rises from the bottom, through people, through purpose, through service. So here's my challenge to you this week. Pick one act of servant leadership, big or small, and do it. Build or join a service pod. Gather 3 people who share your commitment to help others. Easy peasy. Start within your household, in your community. Get a copy of my new book, From Poverty to Prosperity, and discover how business, innovation, and leadership can drive real, lasting change in your community. Remember, when systems shut down, leaders step up. When systems shut down, leaders step up. When the world stops moving, servant leadership keeps us going. I'm Dr. Tekemia Dorsey. This has been the President's Podcast. Lead with purpose, serve with heart, and build a future where leadership lifts everyone. Leadership is not about position, but it is about purpose. Be sure to leave your comments below about the nuggets dropped in this podcast. Go back and listen to the first one. You can find it on my YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, TikTok, X, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever. Let me know your thoughts. And if you're doing some of these things, share. And if you're not, this week I challenge you, and I need to know what you're doing and how you're going to do it, because we need you and you need us. But when the government shuts down, servant leaders rise up. Until the next episode, peace out. Have a great day, and I look forward to hearing and seeing from you soon.